What if love was never about connection, but control? For generations, we've been told that love is the highest ideal. Stories, songs, religions, all painting it as the ultimate meaning of life. But Friedrich Nietzsche didn't just question this belief, he attacked it. Nietzsche believed that behind every seemingly noble human emotion, especially love, there lurked a will to power. Love in his eyes was not selfless. It was not pure. It was a battlefield where one soul tries to dominate another under the disguise of affection. And nowhere is this more visible than in modern relationships. In today's world, romantic love isn't just about feelings. It's entangled in social contracts, cultural narratives, and invisible hierarchies. Nietzsche saw this long before Tinder or Instagram. He warned that modern romance was evolving into a master-slave dynamic, where one person becomes emotionally dependent and the other unconsciously, or consciously, takes control. The illusion of unconditional love is the bait. But the reality? Emotional servitude, masked as devotion. You think you're being loved, but are you actually being managed? Let's go deeper. In Nietzsche's philosophy, all human action is rooted in what he called the will to power, the fundamental drive of all beings to assert, expand, and dominate. Even in the most romantic gestures, he believed this force was at play. The man who gives flowers, he might truly admire her, or he might be trying to possess her emotionally. The woman who cries for attention, maybe she's hurt, or maybe she's manipulating the emotional field to become the center of control. This isn't cynicism, it's clarity. Nietzsche didn't say love is fake. He said we need to unmask it, because the mask is what traps us. Think about how love is sold to us. You complete me. I can't live without you. I'll do anything for you. These are not just romantic ideas. They are psychological contracts of emotional enslavement. If one person becomes the source of all meaning, they gain power, and the other becomes dependent, unable to breathe without their approval. This is the beginning of the master-slave dynamic. But here's the twist. In many modern relationships, the roles are constantly switching. You might start as the master, confident, secure, dominant. But slowly, without realizing it, you begin seeking validation. You start adapting, sacrificing, pleasing. Suddenly, you're no longer leading the relationship. You're reacting to it. You've become the slave. Nietzsche warned us that without awareness, even the strongest mind can become imprisoned by emotions. And in love, which feels noble, pure, beautiful, that prison is decorated with flowers, compliments, and dreams. But make no mistake, it's still a prison. The question is not, am I in love? The real question is, who has the power in this love? That's where we begin.
In Nietzsche's world, there are no innocent feelings. Every emotion hides an agenda, a silent pull toward power. Love, perhaps the most praised of all emotions, is no exception. In fact, Nietzsche saw modern love as a psychological trap, elegant, seductive, and inescapable. But how does something as beautiful as love become a prison? It begins with idealization. We meet someone, we're enchanted, and our mind creates a fantasy, not of who they are, but of what they represent. Safety, wholeness, completion. Suddenly, they become not a person, but a symbol of what we lack. And when we project our unmet needs onto them, we give away our power. This is the first link in the chain. The more we idealize, the more we ignore reality. We overlook flaws, we tolerate disrespect, we bend our boundaries, all in the name of love. But love, when contaminated by fear, is no longer love, it's dependency. Nietzsche would say, this isn't devotion, it's submission. And it gets worse. The moment the other person realizes that they have emotional leverage, that your happiness now depends on their validation, they gain control. This is rarely conscious, but it happens. Small things. They start replying later. They become less expressive. They test how far you'll go to keep their attention. And without realizing it, you begin to adjust. You hide your feelings. You walk on eggshells. You overthink every message. What was once connection is now a power game. Nietzsche called this dynamic a form of emotional enslavement, where one person becomes the mirror, the judge, and the god of the other's self-worth. You are no longer loved. You are owned. You're not in a relationship. You're in a system of psychological compliance. The worst part? It feels normal. Modern culture romanticizes this pattern. She's the one. He's my everything. Without them, I'm nothing. These are not signs of love. They are symptoms of emotional addiction. The tragedy? We crave this. We confuse intensity with depth. We seek chaos and call it passion. And slowly, we lose ourselves. Not because someone took us, but because we gave ourselves away, hoping they'd make us whole. Nietzsche's warning wasn't against love itself. It was against false love. Love built on illusion, control, and fear. Love should expand you, not shrink you. If being with them makes you smaller, quieter, and unsure of yourself, then what you're in is not love. It's obedience, and obedience has no place in freedom. The dangerous part about emotional power is not that it's used, it's that it's hidden. No one tells you, "I own your emotions now." Instead, they smile. They say, "I love you," and you believe it. But Nietzsche warned us, when love becomes a battlefield, power hides behind affection. In every dynamic, someone sets the tone, and someone follows it. Who decides when to talk, when to text, when to pull away, when to return? Who feels anxiety when silence lasts too long? Who has the freedom, and who's anxiously waiting? If you find yourself constantly adjusting to avoid loss, you are not in a romance. You are in a power game. And here's the worst illusion. You think you're making choices, but many of your choices are reactions to their behavior. You dress a certain way, hoping to impress. You speak softer, hoping not to offend. You hide truth, afraid they might walk away. These are not free actions. These are subtle negotiations of survival. And Nietzsche's lens cuts through this mask. He would say, you are not choosing them. You are choosing not to be abandoned. Big difference. One is love, the other is fear. And yet society celebrates this fear. Fight for love. Never let them go. Do whatever it takes. But at what cost? If the price of love is your self-worth, is it still love? Or is it submission painted with romantic colors? This is the point Nietzsche drives home. When power enters love, love becomes something else. Not a union, but a hierarchy. And here's the painful truth. Many of us don't want real love. We want emotional superiority. We want to be the one they can't live without. We want them to feel afraid to lose us. We want them to need us more. And that's when the game flips. The slave becomes the master, and the cycle continues. New face, same story. If this resonates with you, if you've seen yourself in both roles, the dependent and the dominant, then you're not alone. This is not about blaming others. It's about seeing the pattern and breaking it. Because the real revolution starts within. If you're ready to go deeper, to unmask the hidden programs in your mind, stay with me. The next chapters won't just explain the problem, they'll help you escape it. You cannot escape a prison if you don't know you're in one. This is where awareness becomes your only weapon. Nietzsche didn't offer comfort, he offered clarity. Sharp, cold, liberating clarity. He believed that once you recognize the structure of control, the emotional contracts you silently agreed to, you begin to break their spell. Ask yourself, why do I crave their attention so much? Why does their silence feel like punishment? Why am I terrified of being alone? These are not signs of love, they are signs of programming. Programming created by culture, media, past trauma, and reinforced by your silence. Nietzsche's answer wasn't to run from love, it was to dissect it, to tear open the illusion and find the hidden structure inside. Because if love is power, you must ask, who has it and why? The moment you become aware that your thoughts, choices, and emotions are being pulled, not chosen, you begin to see the wires. This is not paranoia. This is sovereignty. Awareness is not weakness. It's the start of liberation. When you see how you've been molded, how you've given your value away in exchange for conditional affection, you begin to reclaim it. You start saying no, not to them, but to the pattern. You begin to stop chasing. You stop begging for love. You stop performing emotional gymnastics to keep someone who isn't truly seeing you. Nietzsche might say, this is when you shift from slave to sovereign, because power doesn't come from control. It comes from non-neediness. When you don't need them, when you don't need their attention, their approval, their love to feel whole, you become dangerous, not to others, but to the system that's been feeding on your emotional dependence. You become free. Real love can only exist between two free beings, not a master and a follower. So here's the mirror Nietzsche holds to you. Are you choosing love or running from yourself? Is your desire for connection a search for meaning or an escape from your own emptiness? This is the brutal clarity he offers. And in that clarity, there's power. Not over them, over yourself. Awareness without action is just observation. Nietzsche didn't want you to just understand power. He wanted you to reclaim it. It starts in small, invisible choices. The moment you feel yourself reaching out for validation, pause. The moment you want to impress them, ask yourself why. When you silence your truth to avoid conflict, realize that's the seed of self-erasure. This isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's about becoming sovereign, whole within yourself. Because every time you adjust to be liked, you shrink. And every time you shrink, you reinforce the illusion that your worth is conditional. Nietzsche believed in what he called the Übermensch, the self-overcoming human. This is not someone who dominates others. It's someone who transcends their conditioning. Someone who doesn't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. In relationships, this looks like saying what you feel without fear of rejection. Setting boundaries, not as threats, but as honoring your truth. Walking away when your soul feels caged. These are not acts of ego. They're acts of integrity. You're not punishing anyone. You're protecting the part of you that society trained you to suppress. Your inner authority. In a world obsessed with being desired, the real rebellion is to desire yourself. Not to beg for love, but to stand in it, even if alone. This is the breakaway. And yes, it's terrifying. Because when you stop chasing, when you stop adapting, when you stop pleasing, the silence will feel loud. You'll hear the parts of you that were muted. And in that discomfort, something powerful begins to grow. Real identity. Not the person others shaped, the one you buried to belong. Nietzsche didn't say, don't love. He said, don't disappear in love. That's the shift. You don't abandon connection. You abandon self-sacrifice disguised as connection. From this point, everything changes. Because when you return to love as a whole being, you can finally offer love that's not based on need, fear, or control. You offer presence, and presence is the rarest gift of all. Most people think healing happens when they stop loving others. But real healing begins when you start loving yourself differently. Not as someone broken, not as someone incomplete, but as someone becoming. Nietzsche believed in the evolution of the soul, not through comfort, but through confrontation. And love is the mirror that confronts us the most. It shows us where we hide, what we fear, what we chase, and what we avoid. But once you've seen the trap and stepped out of it, there's space for something new. True intimacy. Not as dependency, not as control, but as alignment between two whole individuals. You're no longer looking to be saved. You're showing up, already complete, and meeting someone else doing the same. That's not just rare, it's revolutionary. Because now, love isn't about filling your emptiness. It's about celebrating your fullness. You don't say, I need you. You say, I see you, and I choose you, but I don't disappear in you. And they say the same. This is where real connection begins. Nietzsche believed that most people avoid this kind of love, not because it's rare, but because it's demanding. It requires you to drop your masks, to sit in your silence, to feel your fear, and not project it onto them. Most of us aren't ready for this. We want safety, but not growth. We want someone to hold us, but we don't want to hold ourselves. That's why love turns into control. But when you evolve, when you hold your own inner child, face your own pain, and stop asking others to fix it, you become love itself. And from that place, you attract people who aren't here to complete you, but to create with you, together, whole, conscious. That's what Nietzsche meant when he spoke of transcending the herd morality. It's not just about breaking rules, it's about breaking cycles of fear, of emotional slavery, of self-abandonment. So if you've walked this far in the journey, know this: you're not behind, you're not broken, you're waking up. And from that awakening, a new kind of love becomes possible, one rooted in truth, power, and freedom. Freedom doesn't come with light, it comes with darkness first. When you stop needing validation, silence arrives. When you stop performing for love, the emptiness speaks. This is the inner abyss Nietzsche warned about, a space within you that was once filled with distractions, attention, admiration, affection, and now it's just you, alone, but not broken. You are simply without noise, and in that silence, your shadow rises. All the parts of you that you abandoned for love, the anger you swallowed, the opinions you suppressed, the needs you neglected, they come back. Not to haunt you, but to reclaim their place in your wholeness. This is the true cost of freedom, facing the parts of you that others never approved of, and loving them anyway. Nietzsche called this the integration of the shadow, to stop outsourcing your value, to stop seeking in others what only you can give. Yes, it's lonely, but it's sacred loneliness, the kind that sharpens your spirit. You begin to realize you were never afraid of losing them. You were afraid of meeting yourself in the void. But here's the paradox. When you sit with yourself long enough, you stop feeling empty, because the void was never empty. It was filled with you, your real voice, your real desires, your real power. It was just buried under years of adaptation, performance, and fear. Nietzsche believed that through this confrontation, we become creators, not consumers of love, but makers of meaning. You no longer need someone to choose you. You choose yourself, with all your shadow, scars, strength, and silence. And once you do, you're finally ready, not for the love that completes you, but for the love that meets you, equal, honest, awake. And that's where the real story begins. If you've walked this far, you already know this isn't just about love. It's about you, about the way you show up in the world, about how you choose and how you allow yourself to be chosen. Nietzsche never promised comfort. He offered reality. And reality is not always kind, but it is true. The truth is, love is not a fantasy. It's a mirror. And what you see in it depends on who you are when you look. If you come to love empty, it will devour you. But if you come to love full, aware, sovereign, whole, it will elevate you. The world doesn't need more people in love. It needs more people who love consciously, who don't lose themselves in another, but find themselves through deeper connection. This is your choice now. You can go back to chasing ghosts, or you can keep walking forward toward a love that meets you with open eyes. And if you're ready, if you're hungry for more truth, more clarity, more liberation, this journey isn't over. It's just beginning, because there are more illusions to break, more myths to unlearn, more power to reclaim. And I'll be here, with stories, with philosophy, with uncomfortable questions. And if you're brave enough, you'll keep watching, you'll keep thinking, you'll keep rising, because that's what this is all about. Not becoming someone they'll love, but becoming someone you can finally love. Watch the next one. Don't stop now. We're just getting started.